Hello, team. This is Dr. Miranda. It is indeed another privilege to spend a few moments with you, particularly going over the final project Milestone 1 guidelines and rubric for this week's assignment. This week we have really focused, or we will focus, primarily on the issue of tariffs. On the graphic on the side, you see pretty much the embodiment on the modern thought concerning tariffs. Are they good? Are they bad? So on the back you have a wall, okay? And these, of course, represent a country's foreign trade policy, whether it's going to be trade based on free trade principles, meaning very limited or no trade barriers or tariffs, or is it going to be a protectionist uh, uh, ideology, practice, foreign trade practice? Okay, meaning we're going to put up major walls against all or certain products, and we are going to go ahead and charge a tariff. A You can see it has a tax or a service fee or pretty much a type of punitive fee on the import of certain trades or goods. So you have that wall in the background, and then you have two individuals. One is bring back a tariff wall, and I think it's a very humorous way of representing interest groups who are very protectionist in their global trade, country's trade policy. On the other hand, you have an individual that says, and go back to the dark ages. This, of course, excuse me, represents individuals who are proponents. Oh, from time to time, the tie goes crazy, huh? That's all right. Anyways, so from time to time, uh, you have a war, so to speak, existing controversy between these two interest groups. Those who want a firm protectionist policy for their country to, in a way, protect certain markets and goods in their country against other markets, other countries, particularly incursions of other goods, other countries' goods into their own markets. Okay, and then you have, of course, other individuals who are totally free trade. We don't want no tariffs. We don't want no barriers. We want free trade, not only in our country, but all over the world. And we are willing to take a risk um, of having other nations come in and dump their products into our country, sell products perhaps at a cheaper rate. But we are willing to do that because we believe there are certain trade-offs. There are winners and there are losers, and usually there should be a type of balance when it comes to that. We had a really tremendous, actually, discussion on the issue of offshoring and outsourcing, last week, and we saw the linkage then between tariffs and offshoring, outsourcing, and some other trade practices. Okay. So this is going to be, I believe, a very, very interesting discussion as far as tariffs is concerned. Again, just a review, two very distinct types of thought, types of ideology when it comes to tariffs. You have those who will have a protectionist agenda. We're trying to protect our home markets against foreign incursions of cheaper products. Okay, and if that happens, they fear that there will be loss of jobs, loss of other employment services that are tied to employment. Okay? And then you have others in the same country who are very open to a free trade policy which excludes tariffs or any other trade barriers. Okay, and these two are often in competition, in fierce competition. And recently, both in the United States of America and the European Union, but specifically the UK. Even France now, their presidential election, particularly the Le Pen candidate, which is the far-right candidate, we are seeing a resistance to free trade, and we are seeing more and more of a move of trying to restore manufacturing capacity in the respective countries, and also trying to use tariffs and trade regulations as a means of foreign trade policy, and perhaps even bringing back a protectionist type of agenda. Who will win at the end? Okay. Well, the jury is still out there. We really don't know. It's too early to tell. I'm hoping that there will be a combination of both. I believe that the balanced approach has always been a centrist approach, has always been on the middle of the road approach. You can never have extreme. On one side, you have the extreme of let's have free trade all over the world, and then, no matter what the consequences are to the home market, and then on the other hand, you have a full protectionist agenda, which means we're going to curtail global trade, free trade, and we're going to basically protect our home markets against foreign incursions. And we want, of course, our manufacturing jobs back in our home country. Who's going to win? We have no idea. But the middle road approach is always the best one, in my opinion. You have a combination of protectionist and you have a combination of free trade. They can both coexist. It's up to our leaders to be wise about how to implement this type of agenda. You're saying that's not free trade. I believe it is. I believe that we must have readjustments in terms of tariffs, and I believe that we have to protect the home markets, particularly manufacturing, but at the same time, we should never curtail free trade. We should never put up barriers that hurt, particularly FDI, foreign direct investment. We should never hurt exporters of our home market. We should never hurt other markets at the expense of our own. So we have to have a balanced approach. And I believe that this actually, middle of the road approach, actually promotes free trade because it promotes free and fair trade. Whenever we have, remember this, okay? Under Adam Smith, zero-sum game was acceptable as far as trade among the nations. You can look at his work, which for the most part was very excellent for the age in which they lived in, which was the wealth of nations. Adam Smith led the thinking of the economic arena for many years, decades even. Okay, now it's a different world in which we live in, and we are seeing that a zero-sum game where there is a winner and there's a loser that doesn't quite work when it comes to free trade. We should have an approach where there is a win-win situation. But that's wishful thinking, Dr. Miranda. We are never going to have a world where there is going to be some sort of a balance. Well, we should, because there should be a way in which all sides get to win. Now, there will be some losses, of course, but those losses will not come at the expense of unemployment, will not come at the expense of shocks to the socio-economic order of a country. Okay, there should be ways by which we can eat the cake, and have it too. Okay, or have the cake and eat it too. That's how pretty much it goes. Okay, I think it's up to the academics. I think it's up to the industry leaders. It's up to the political leaders to come together and figure out a way how to do this. Okay, so now we are going to move on to our readings for this week, and which will be very helpful, for which you will use to build your Milestone 1 assignment. Okay. The first resource is a very good resource, and I'm switching now to our course, BB Shell. And of course, the textbook is going to be the Global Trade Policy Questions and Answers, Chapter 5. And this chapter describes in detail the theory behind tariffs. It describes the impact and implication of tariffs. Now, apart from the textbook, which is excellent, we have some additional resources for you to look at. Some are going to be optional, meaning you don't have to look at it. Okay. But it would behoove you to actually, spend some time and take a look at it, because it's going to be very helpful and in equipping you with additional knowledge that can enhance your educational experience and your upcoming resources. The first one is a database. It's IMD World Competitiveness Online. This database contains list of all countries in the world and main economic, social, and other indicators that can help analyze the competitiveness of the country. It will help you with all of the milestones, especially milestone 3. So this is going to be the heart of your milestones. I have to tell you this. Data is very important. Data is the heart of any project, okay? Specifically when it comes to economic data, tariff data, and data that has to deal specifically with trade. For my own dissertation, I've used a wealth of data. And this is data that does not come from the Wall Street Journal, even though the Wall Street Journal is good. It does not come from The Economist, even though The Economist is a good publication. Okay, but it comes directly from governments. It comes directly from authoritative sources, and these are sources that you can trust. And the beautiful thing about data is that it helps you make up your mind. It helps you not to be swayed by either the arguments from those who are protectionist or others who are completely free trade. It helps you to look at the data in a very raw format, and it helps you to make educated assumptions, educated guesses, and as well as to arrive at what you believe is the truth about a certain subject. So I really, really urge you to take a look at this particular IMD database, okay, and it's something that is offered through the Shapiro library, but the link is here, and it's a really great source for your milestones and your final project. The other one is a YouTube video. It's only 6 minutes and 43 seconds long. Is how to calculate the impact of import and export tariffs. Okay, and it supplements the theory behind tariffs, and it shows in detail calculations of the impact of tariffs. So this is going to be very useful also in your milestone assignments and your final, because you will be able to use the data, okay, from the IMD World Competitiveness database, and you can actually use the YouTube video and the calculations that are offered there to help you determine the specific price of the tariff, okay? And so it's going to help you figure out in detail the calculations of how the particular tariff of the country that you're doing your specific report on, okay? Now, there are two optional PDFs or articles, okay? One is the truth about industrial country tariffs. I took a look at it, I read it, and I have to tell you, it was very eye-opening, okay? Because it explains the impact of high tariffs on good consumers and, of course, on countries. And we usually, and what I liked about this article, is that it pulled no punches. It did not try to be politically correct. It tried not to pick sizes. It simply weighed in the cost of tariffs when it comes to certain goods. And I have to tell you, it actually helped to move me from a certain position, very slightly, towards another position. Okay. Again, it's a very, very eye-opening article, and I think that it would help you, because not only will it help you with your assignments, even though it is an optional article, but also it helps you to have a very comprehensive look into the world of tariffs. And when you're sitting around talking with academics, other professors, but also your friends or your family, And there are individuals who may take a different opinion than you have on tariffs, and you will be able to actually speak with more authority when it comes to tariffs. So it's a really great article. The other one is, of course, optional. Okay, just as this video is optional, is a PDF as exports in a tariff-free environment, and it really deals on what structural reforms matter. Remember, and this one is a particular study that took place um, in the European Union. Now, remember, the European Union was at one point simply a collection of 10 European countries coming together to establish the European Common Market. However, now we have over 20 countries. I think 25 or 23 uh, around there. So the EU had to actually integrate all of these countries into the Union, European Union, and at the same time, it had to figure out a way to integrate the trade and their trade agreements into a cohesive, into the common European market policy when it came to tariffs. Okay, so it's a really great time study, specific study on why do structure reform matter. First of all, why do the structure of tariffs matter? Over here, particularly in the United States of America, we're having a huge amount of debate when it comes to tariffs. For example, we have companies who have manufacturing facilities abroad, and let's say they make refrigerators, and they manufacture those refrigerators abroad, and then they import those refrigerators back to the home market at a lower price because, of course, they're taking advantage of the cheaper rates abroad of manufacturing costs. So they're able to be very competitive in the home market. However, the policy, the stated policy, which hasn't yet become set in stone, is that there should be at least a 35% tariff on the goods of companies who shut off their manufacturing plants here in the United States, move abroad, produce their goods cheaper abroad, and then import those goods back into the U.S. At a very cheaper way, and it becomes very competitive. And so the government is saying, okay, what we're going to do is to encourage you to return to America to produce your goods in the country, we're going to slap about a 35% tariff on that particular good. Okay. Now, 35% is not something to sneeze at. Now, the question is, because we have seen companies actually move their manufacturing back to the United States of America, and even some other countries offshoring their manufacturing capabilities in the United States of America because of it's cheaper now to manufacture here in America than in their own country, specifically, let's say, Japan. And so, the question is this going to be competitive? Okay, are the costs of returning back to manufacturing, are they going to are they going to become competitive against the 35% tariff rate or even higher? Okay, so I bet you right now the CEOs are pulling out their calculator and they're doing their calculations to see if this is a move. Okay, again, these policies have not even yet become stated policies on free trade. Excuse me. Okay, but the companies are waking up to say, oh, just a moment, let's rethink our position on this. Okay. So it's a really, really great article because it really talks about the structure of tariffs, and do we really need to revisit those tariffs, to revisit those policies? Can we restructure them in a way that we can become competitive abroad and at the same time protect our home markets if we decide to go with tariffs? Now, understand that our own country has tariffs. The United States of America has tariffs on certain goods. Okay, and the question is, should we revisit those tariffs? Okay, should we eliminate them or should we revisit them? Should we lower them or should we make them even higher? So these are good discussions that are taking place right now uh, in government. And so that's why it's important that we, as voters, become educated when it comes to tariffs, because not only do we can apply that in a professional setting, particularly if you are in manufacturing, okay, or manufacturing related uh, uh, industry or services. For example, I was an import and export, so I had to become very familiar with tariffs because we paid certain tariffs at certain times and certain products to our clients here in the United States. And we also paid certain tariffs to certain countries when we exported our goods into those countries. Okay. So it's a really, really great idea to take a look at that article. Again, it's optional, but it's good knowledge to have. Okay. Now, we are going to look at our rubric for our Milestone 1 assignment. This is a very important assignment. This is the actual bedrock foundation on which all the other milestones in your final project are going to be based on. So you want to do a very good job. You want to understand what the rubric is asking of you. You want to also be sure that you deliver on all the points of the rubric. I have had in the past some unfortunate events where we had students who unfortunately did not either understand, or they made a mistake, or they looked at the rubric and did not leverage, did not deliver on all of the points. So you want to make sure that you are delivering on all the major points of the rubric. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at milestone 1 guidelines and rubric. Okay. And the prompt is this: to begin your final project, you will submit a short paper with your country, your industry and company overview, and a description of your country's specific trade policies. Provide a brief overview where you select a specific international market and a company within a selected industry. Imagine you are an international consultant. You are working on providing a client with highly specific analysis of a particular international market, while keeping in mind the industry that the client is in. So again, be sure that you select the country, okay, and select the country and the specific company that you are going to be dealing with. Okay, and these, number one is, are the trade policies in your selected international market sufficiently competitive to attract new companies in a particular industry? Remember, you want to ensure, now, of course, us and corporations and academia, we have no impact on our country's trade policies, other than we want to make sure that when we're voting our elected representatives, that they themselves understand free trade. So what are the trade policies in your selected international market? Are they sufficiently competitive to attract new companies in a particular industries? Okay, so let's say you decide India, okay, as an example, uh, to do business with for this particular assignment. Now, are the trade policies in India, are they competitive enough so that when your company goes into India, that you're going to make a profit? Okay, or do the trade policies in India actually detract from the potential business that your company wants to see in that particular market? Two, are the trade barriers in your selected market low and beneficial in order for new companies to succeed in a specific industry? Three, what changes in trade policies, trade barriers, or new trade agreement alliances will make the country more competitive and desirable for your particular industry and company? Okay, so you're going to be looking at your selected country's trade policies, and you're going to be looking at the rate of the tariffs. You're going to be looking at, how imported goods are assessed in terms of the tariffs. Okay, and you're going to see, is this a viable option? Okay, or Are there opportunities for that country to enhance their trade policies when it comes to tariff to make your industry more competitive? Okay. Specifically, the following critical elements must be addressed. One, country, industry, and company overview. Provide brief overview of the chosen international market. Provide a brief overview of the chosen industry in which your company is operating. Provide a brief background of the company you have selected. Include the nature of the company's products and or services. Two, trade policies. Describe the country's specific trade policies geared towards foreign multinational corporations, MNCs. A, define trade policies in your specific international market. Consider drawing from multiple sources in your definition. B, determine the implications of the trade policies on your company. Do these policies ease or hinder your company's business? Why? Okay. C, determine the implications of the trade policies on your industry. Do these policies ease or hinder the industry within the specific international market, or why? D, determine the implications of the trade policies on consumers. Do these policies hinder the consumer's purchasing power within the specific international market? And I. So you see how it's trickling down, right? First, you're going to define the trade policies of your specific international market, the country that you have chosen, okay? And then you're going to determine what is the implication of the trade policies on your company. So let's say you chose India. What are the implications of India's trade policies on your company? Okay, do these policies ease or hinder your company's business? Okay, B, determine if you have selected India. We're just using India as an example. Determine the implication of India's trade policies on your company. Okay, and again, do these policies ease or hinder your company's business? And then you're going to determine India's implications of the trade policies on your industry, okay? And then, okay, the implications of India's trade policies on consumers, okay? So it begins with company, then goes to industry, and then it goes to the effects on the consumers. And again, we only use India as an example. You're going to use the country that you selected, okay? Now, these are the guidelines for submission, okay? Milestone 1 must be submitted, has a 2-3 page, okay? Usually, because we're dealing with a lot of, and this is just the minimum, okay? A 2 or 3 page minimum, and does not include title and reference pages, okay? So 2 to 3 pages have to be content, not one page is title, the other is content, and the third one is going to be reference. No, again, 2 to 3 pages minimum of actual content. That excludes the title page and reference pages, okay? It has to be a Microsoft Word document with double spacing, with a 12-point Times New Roman font, 1-inch margins, okay? And it should at least have 2 scholarly references. Now, all references should be cited in APA format, okay? Now, I look forward to reading your Milestone 1 assignments. I believe they will be good. I believe they will be relevant, and I believe that they will take into account all of the information that we have learned, particularly when it comes to tariffs, as well as the reading resources and the available resources that were given to you. Should you have any questions, any concerns, please do not hesitate to contact me. Have a wonderful week.